rolling.
All right, so we're just letting people in on our little powwow. We got a show coming up February 27th at the Fontanel, 7 o'clock, and you know, we're talking about Mozart and the Gospel, and I call it Mozart and the Gospel because I'm looking at the world of classical culture, you know, classical music, classical art, and black culture, and how they go together. So it's a different twist on Black History Month, and it's really like using the month as a spearhead to really, I'd like to, you know, really talk about this the whole year. So with Don, we have Don Robertson here, composer, his historian. I call him a scribe. He's like, you know, Joseph Campbell with myth. It's like Joseph Campbell of music here. We're looking into the history of music. So Don is helping me to really kind of pull it almost in a scholarly way where we can really look at this subject. And so Melvin here, young man over here, Maestro, got the name Maestro, and the spirit of Beethoven coming here. And I feel like, you know, young lady Rose who put us together. This is the first time we've actually really met like this. And so you're going to get the chance to see this kind of chemistry, not just sports and athletes, but music and culture, and particularly how classical music and the sacred black music go together. That's the thing. When you think of the violin concertos, to think that the African sacred music is going at the same time. And so that's what I want to get into with Don. And so I'm just introducing you to Don. We're giving you a little taste of what's going on here. Don, you can say a few words to the good people.
Well, really looking forward to working with you, Roy, and Futureman. And there's so much a rich tradition to draw on, and so many new angles to look at to fully understand. As you say, it's Black History Month, and this is something we need to really take a really good look at, because for the music that came from the enslaved African Americans in the 19th century became the music of America. The blues and the spirituals and the work songs, the shouts, all that turned into to the music that all the way through jazz and rock and roll and hip hop. So there you go. Yeah,
so it's very interesting because as you talk about that, I feel like, you know, we get a chance to touch on how the composer Dvorak really brought America and the world's attention to the fact of, you know, Negro melodies and this folk culture being very important to the world of art and classical art as well. And I don't know if you want to comment on that, you know, in some of the research,
well,
the message of Dvorak.
This great European, Czechoslovakian composer came to New York to teach, and he discovered our native music, which many of his associate professors and other people who were in the educational establishment at that time, they couldn't even understand why he was attracted to this music. This is the African American music and the Native American music. And he became very interested in these melodies, and so he first of all recommended that the composers in our country, in the United States, you take this great wealth of material, and some of it had already been published, quite a bit of it, and incorporated it as melodies in the classical music. And so he did that himself, and of course we have several wonderful compositions, among which is the famous symphony that he wrote,
New World.
The New World Symphony.
Yeah. Very nice, very nice. Just before we go, I mean, personally, you and Mary Ellen have, like you said, you went on tours where you went and you were like the only white people in these black church revivals and stuff. Can you just comment on that, just from your personal experience? What it was like?
I experienced something that I had a little tiny taste of in the 60s. Because I was very attracted to the South. I'm from Colorado, and my first trip through the South, I discovered a little church in a neighborhood off the road somewhere, and I think it was in Alabama, and it was an African American church. It was a little small, wooden, with a steeple, and there was singing going on in there that I'd never heard anything like it in my life. There was so much life in it, and tambourines, and so I'd always had that in my mind that I wanted to discover that music. And the recordings that I had heard and the things that I heard on the radio weren't saying the same thing. And so I went on a quest. And Mary Ellen and I sat through many just fantastic concerts of the last of the black gospel groups in the 1990s. When their final touring, most of them, and it was just, as you said, there weren't very many white folks there. And you know, it's just I would just sometimes just kind of wake up in the midst of a concert and realize that so many people in the world would love this experience, and they just don't know about it. So we spent years collecting records, and then we 3 or 4 years ago we took all these records that we collected starting about 1992, 78s and LPs, and just saved as much of this music as we could, and then several years ago we digitized it all, and now we're using this collection and also a collection of videos that we've obtained to create talks and work with people and presenting all this wonderful music. Right.
So I just want everybody to stay tuned, because we can only give you a taste, but it's going to be a good taste. It's something that I'd like to continue throughout the year. I feel like me and the Maestro are going to continue. This is just the beginning, the tip of my iceberg. And like with Don, I just appreciate it, because Don, you're a composer, and he's reaching out. It's almost like the same way Joseph Campbell would reach to stories and mythology. You know, he's understanding the mythology of music, you know, and the message from Negro spirituals and hymns. You've actually collected all of these in a scholastic kind of way. And I believe that this should be a course that you should be able to take, where you can actually understand what the soul of America is. And I feel like the spirit of the concert that we're going to do, what I like about it is that a lot of the European composers said the future belongs to America. What's happening in music, the future is here. You can see it in popular music when you look at the Rolling Stones, and everyone's looking to America. What's going on in America? They're looking to Muddy Waters and, you know what I mean, Little Richard and all of these, you know, these black musicians influencing everything. Dvorak and a whole bunch of years of European classical music is looking at what's going on in Harlem, looking at Negro melody. So for black culture, I get a chance to show how some of the, not just the sports and the athletics and stuff, but also the highest levels of classical art and black culture, they go together. There's a love affair there. You know, it's not just you know, it's a real relationship that's going on a long time. And so this is going to take a little while, and I appreciate Don for helping me to get it together, because I feel like it's like going to Joseph Campbell and really understanding, you know, the story of music, and here's the black part of the story. And now we get a chance to see. Everyone's invited to the classical concert now. Everyone's invited to see Maestro. Everyone's invited. I appreciate it. And we're going to be reaching out to friends like Cedric Dent, Take Six, you know, to give their 2 cents and help us to tell this story. So stay tuned. And Maestro, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Man, you as well, man.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. All this thing, you as well.
Yeah.
Meet 2 new guys for the first time and just learning a lot of. It's just, I mean, it's going to be a lot of cool stuff. I just want to tell people to come on out. I mean, you'll learn as I'm learning, and I'm on the show, but learning from these 2 guys, these great historians of the music. So it's going to be one of those life-changing, I think, concerts for everybody. No matter what knowledge that you're bringing, you'll go away learning a lot more. So
yeah, and you mentioned Cedric Dent earlier, and how you know Cedric?
I knew him through church originally. We both attend the same church. Also, well, yeah, that's really where I knew him. And then from the group, Take Six, you know, a lot of those guys I knew, Joey, Mark, Kibble. Just growing up, like, kind of listening to them and knowing them really not outside of their Take Six run, but more of just, oh, it's Uncle Mark. You know, yeah, he sings in this little group, I think.
Little group, I think.
Right? Yeah. I mean, you know, I'm a little kid, so it's like, oh, yeah, it's Uncle Mark, little, you know, Joey and them, the little group. But then knowing, you know, what they're really doing, you know, so.
Right. Well, it's really neat the way they've been able to sort of marry the spiritual side of the message and the jazz side. And that's the thing that I'm going to get a chance to touch on. It's really from a book, a lot of it from this book called New World Symphonies, and it talks about this love affair that Dvorak sort of brings the world's attention to it. And what I'm understanding is that he's bringing the world's attention to something that's been there the whole time, going on through Mozart's time. Because when Mozart's time, what we don't see in the movies, this is the height of the global slave trade. So it's like roots to France, to England, to South America, to everybody, not just America. So you got to imagine those same songs that Dvorak was talking about, and Delius, and all of these composers expressing it now.